We're
live. All right, welcome everyone. I'm calling to order Solid Waste Committee for Thursday, August 20th, 2026. I am Councillor Nishioka, Chair. Councillor Brown, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. Councillor Brown here, Ward 5.
Thank you.
Hello, Mickey Barney, Ward 8.
Thank you and welcome. Deanna Gwynn also serves on this committee. She, I believe she hopes to log in later online. So we'll get started as we have a quorum. I know that we have a new member, but I will allow city staff to introduce themselves, and then I'm assuming Melissa will introduce herself. So.
Josh Eggleston, Chief Financial Officer.
And Kelly is out?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Melissa.
Hi, Melissa Wood. I'm the very new franchise administrator.
And welcome. Thank you. I look forward to speaking with you. This is the first time I've met you, so welcome to the group.
Oh, I'm Shona Thomas, a management analyst.
And any staff that are present that should introduce themselves?
Hi, I'm Nitin Joshi. I'm the Environment and Operations Technology Manager with Public Works.
Ryan Zink, the previous franchise administrator, now within a different division.
Thank you.
I'm not a franchise administrator. Rob Lane, I'm the Public Information Strategic Communication Manager.
Thank you. And Julianne?
Juliana Douglas, Action Plan Manager.
Thank you, everyone. So we have, and then we don't have Shane. Okay. All right. So can I hear from one of the members motion for the approval of minutes from May 21st? It's been that long.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I move approval of the May 21st, 2026 meeting minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. All right, thank you, everyone. We're now to public comment, and I understand we have two people online. So I will go ahead and call Mark Yeager first. I see you there. So you have 3 minutes with your testimony, and we'll have the timer get started once you do. And whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Great. Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Yeager. I'm a resident of Benton County, and I'm also a registered civil and environmental engineer in Oregon, working for many years on water quality issues. I'm here to ask you to reconsider the current practice of accepting hauled landfill leachate for disposal at your Willow Lake sewage treatment plant. Leachate comes from liquids contained in residential, commercial, and industrial garbage dumped into the landfill, and it also comes from the decomposition of trash once it's inside the landfill. In addition, all the rainwater that enters into and flows through the landfill ends up as leachate, picking up chemicals as it makes its way to the bottom of the landfill. Landfill leachate is a complex chemical stew that contains high nutrient loads, heavy metals such as arsenic, lead, mercury, and cadmium, as well as pesticides, pharmaceuticals, personal care products, and high concentrations of the forever chemical PFAS. Salem accepts 20 to 25 million gallons of leachate every year. That means 15 to 20 large tanker trucks are moving to and from the landfill to deliver leachate to Salem. The Willow Lake plant provides essentially no treatment. Most of these toxic pollutants just pass through the plant because conventional wastewater treatment plants are not designed, nor do they have the technology to remove the leachate's complex suite of chemical pollutants. I'm concerned because the discharge of these chemicals impacts on wildlife through bioaccumulation, recreational uses such as swimming, boating, and fishing. It also impacts downstream drinking water systems, including Wilsonville, Sherwood, and the Tualatin Valley that rely on the Willamette River as their supply source. Agricultural uses are also impacted, such as irrigation and stock watering. Salem's wastewater DEQ discharge permit does not currently regulate PFAS or many of the other toxics contained in leachate. While you will hear about pretreatment of leachate today, there is no effective or proven pretreatment technologies operating at scale anywhere in the United States. The solution to pollution should not be dilution. Further, continued acceptance of this waste in light of the evolving regulatory requirements may put Salem in a difficult position for their future wastewater discharge permits. I served as Public Works Director in Albany for many years. Albany stopped accepting leachate in 2007. Corvallis stopped accepting it in 2025. I urge you to reconsider your practice of accepting this waste into your system and to evaluate the cost benefit of accepting this waste weighed against the liability of any related environmental impacts. Thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions, Dr. Brown? Okay. All right, we have Mason Levitt now. And again, 3 minutes.
Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Mason Levitt. I am a representative of Beyond Toxics, an organization working to ensure that all Oregonians have stable access to clean water, air, and food. I have worked for 4 years in landfill policy and community organizing, and the communities I speak to across the Willamette Valley are incredibly concerned about the current leachate disposal practices in Salem, among other cities. Landfill leachate is, as Mark mentioned, loaded with a variety of toxic molecules, including principally PFAS, or forever chemicals, heavy metals, and everything under the sun sitting in the landfill. Wastewater treatment plants are not equipped to treat any of these chemicals and instead pass them through into sewage sludge and into the Willamette River. While there are many sources of PFAS, including from sewage and stormwater, leachate is especially concentrated in these chemicals, and it is not in the best interest of any city to be in the business of accepting these toxics into the sewage stream. PFAS are incredibly toxic in very trace amounts. Putting those into a riverways, especially the Willamette, exposes hundreds of thousands of Oregonians to forever chemicals through drinking water, recreational absorption through skin, chemical accumulation in fish, which are then eaten by people, and accumulation through crops by irrigation water. Landfill operators need to be responsible for taking care of the byproducts of their business. They accept millions of tons of waste each year, and they profit off of it in the process. Landfills are choosing to centralize these toxins into their operations, and they should not be using public facilities to avoid the costs associated with dealing with leachate. While landfill operators are trying to argue this is the fault of consumers and they are just passive receivers of these contaminants, it will not work. The Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act, or CERCLA, is an extremely strict regulation which holds all entities responsible for contaminants they accept, whether they produce them or not. A U.S. judge affirmed this finding in relation to PFAS this week. This means that Salem and other cities will also be liable for hazardous pollutants they accept and dispense into the Willamette River. It is extremely important that Salem discontinues this practice at the soonest available opportunity, as it will protect public health, further insulate the city from future lawsuits, and ensure landfill operators are responsible for the waste that they choose to accept. Lastly, I wish to underscore the importance of also phasing out unnecessary and excessive PFAS out of consumer products. As the legislature engages around such topics this upcoming year, I hope this committee will use their expertise and weigh in on this issue. Thanks for giving me the time to speak here today, and I'm also happy to answer questions or provide further follow-up.
Thank you, well timed. Any questions?
I did have one quick question. Which court were you referring to that this passed or was whatever within the last week?
Yes, so this was a circuit court, and the EPA has added several PFAS molecules to their list of hazardous substances, and an industry group on behalf of landfill operators sued, saying this was overreach, and a judge found they were incorrect, and this is valid under CERCLA regulations.
And this was which circuit court and where?
DC Circuit Court of Appeals on
Okay,
Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any hand. All right, now we have public testimony. Next is Phil Carver. If you'd like to, you want to come sit here, or
This is, which way is the camera? Is it up there?
it's,
Okay.
you'll be seen.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Nick Jivka, and members of the committee and staff for allowing oral testimony. I'm Phil Carver, co-coordinator of 350 Salem. I have just 3 questions. Hopefully, Mr. Jotsy can answer in his presentation. The first question is, if the city did not take leachate from Coffin Butte, how much would that lower the amount of PFAS in the biosolids? Second question is, would that make the biosolids safe enough to sell? And the third question is, how much did the city in the past make from selling biosolids annually? So just, those are my 3 questions. And I'm here really because I'm concerned about the substantial increase in PFAS in the Willamette between above the outflow of Willow Lake and the PFAS in the river below Willow Lake. And it's a substantial increase in the amount of PFAS in the river. And it's a very toxic thing. So the city shouldn't be doing this.
Did you send your questions to us, or are you just providing them verbally now?
Just verbally now.
Were we able to get those questions accurately?
Can you get the second one?
The second one was, would it make the biosolids safe enough to sell? I know the city has discontinued selling the biosolids or spreading them. I don't know if you sell them or not.
And would you repeat the third question?
Oh, yeah. How much in the past did the city make from selling biosolids, if anything?
If we did,
If
okay,
you did.
great,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Were you able to get those? All right, wonderful, thank you. All right, Bill Cummins.
I did not come prepared to
To speak.
make a statement, but I am totally, I don't want to say appalled by what I'm hearing here. Just that it is, that the leachate is accepted and that it is not treated and it's just shoved down the river. So, and that's all I have to say.
All right, well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And Joyce Zook. Okay. Oh, she's on Zoom. Do we have another third person on Zoom? All right, sorry. All right, Jim, you're up.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I can be very brief because my colleagues, Mark Yeager and Mason Levitt, I thought did an excellent job in their testimony today. I'm representing 350 Salem along with Phil. And our position is that the city, as Mark said, should stop this practice as soon as possible. And you've heard all the reasons, and we find them very compelling. It's the wrong thing to do. It's the wrong thing for the water. It's the wrong thing for the fish, as Councilor Barney must know. It's the wrong thing for downstream water users. And we think they're coming to the legislature, those downstream water users, because I think they've woken up to the fact that this practice of Salem is really harmful to them. So let's get ahead of the game. Let's not wait to be forced by the legislature to do this. Let's do the right thing and end this practice as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes public testimony unless the one person Joyce comes in. Okay, great. Thank you very much. We don't have any action items. We're now to management update and information items. Upcoming events, we don't have anything. I'm assuming that would have been Juliana. And now we have the introduction of our new franchise administrator. So, Melissa, would you like to just speak about yourself briefly and welcome?
Thank you. As we all love speaking about ourselves, so I will gladly do that. I come from a background in 15 years in banking. I'm also a budget analyst as part of my role. So, and I worked for the legislature for over 6 years as a project manager. And I'm extremely excited to be here.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, sounds like we are going to be well cared for. So thank you very much. So now we have the COSA update and rates for certain commercial. Oh, Robin, that's you.
That's me.
That's you. Yay, no wonder you're here.
So, this will be very brief. So, during the last meeting, Shane was here with the Haulers, president of the Haulers Association, and briefly talked about the need for a new rate that is specific to recycle only for commercial customers. So this is just a continuation, a follow-up of that. We did get, staff received a proposal from them in July. With the transition between Melissa and I, we haven't had the opportunity yet to do a full review of that yet. Next slide. Or Josh, I apologize. Thank you. So I mentioned last time that within our code, we have an opportunity to, the director, as referred to in the code, which also means the city manager, may establish an interim rate for any particular kind of service that is not already established. And so this would be a new service that's not established. And so the intent is to then take the proposal that's been given by the haulers, and over the next month, hopefully by September, we'll have gone through a review of that. So this says that that rate shall go through the factors listed in subsection F. Josh, if you go to the next one, which is things you've heard before. It's like these are all that as we're going through our regular biannual COSA process, these are the factors that are considered. And so these factors will be applied to that proposed rate. The plan is then during the next meeting in September that staff will bring back our recommendation accordingly, and then ask for a recommendation by this committee to then a recommendation to the city manager to put that rate into effect. Then Josh, if you go to the next slide. Then we would roll, so that temporary rate would be in place until basically about this time next year, that we would be considering the full rate review schedule like we usually do every couple of years. So that would become effective permanently in the 2028 rate schedule. So we have a proposal. I don't have that here for you to review because that might change.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go through that process, work with the haulers and say, hey, how did you come up with this? We'll compare that or go through that review as per what we usually do. How does this, and the main thing to keep in mind is, we're looking at does each line of service, right? Is it have full cost recovery? Is it meeting those? We target a certain return, so if each is this rate meet those factors and those considerations that we typically look at for the full rate schedule. And then if it does, then we'll come back and or we'll make, if not, we'll make some adjustments to that. We'll bring it back, make a recommendation, and then ask for this committee to make a recommendation to the city manager.
Do you have questions? Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
So this is for commercial recycling.
Yes.
Are we also going to be looking at encouragement, or if there's going to need to be charges for commercial food waste?
That's not part of this very narrow.
Okay, so this is a very narrow,
Yeah.
might we be seeing those opportunities?
So there is currently a food waste service provided. We can bring back information on what that is, what the rates are, what it was entailed with that. So there is currently a food waste only collection option for commercial providers or those that, that produce food. And so we can bring back some information on that if you would like, on kind of what the current status of that is.
I think I would like to see that in our efforts to try to encourage more food waste management. I also would like to see how we could assist commercial industries that have that. If we're enabling them to be able to decrease their waste, solid waste, because they're increasing their food waste, as we try to do with residential.
Yep.
So I'd like to see how that is working for commercial industries and if we need to look at changes. And that would probably be a discussion with the haulers as well.
Yep.
And trying to understand what those costs are. So I think that would be something I think we need to pay attention to for the future. Okay.
I see that our new franchise administrator is taking some notes on
Doodling.
that. Yes.
Do away.
Yeah, we can listen to that.
Let's go right ahead.
Can you just give me an example of a commercial business that would use just a recycling only?
So this issue has particularly come up with some of the, like Salem Kaiser School District. So where they provide their own, well, a little bit of background. I hope I get the details correct on this. It's been a few months since I talked with Shane about it. The general idea is that the commercial customer, in this case, a school, they've moved to compactors in areas for their trash, the trash items. So that those compactors don't need to be serviced as often as the loose containers did previously.
Okay.
So the costs associated with that are pushing, but the recycling piece of that service still has the same frequency that was needed previously. And so the costs are shifting towards the recycling piece of that service. And so the trash side is supplementing the recycling piece of that the subscribe service. So if they can break those apart and say, okay, well, now since you're doing compactors, we're going to just charge you for the compactor. It's going to be a lower rate, which we do have a compactor trash only rate. We don't have a container recycle only rate. And so we want to split those apart so that the recycling piece of that for the school districts and that, or the schools, that the frequency of service that's needed, which didn't change, has that the costs are being appropriately associated, and then the rate is appropriate to the associated costs. If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Cool.
Now I'm really curious about the compactor rate, but we don't need to talk about that today. I'm thinking, if it's not the garbage and you compact it, it's still the same weight, don't we know?
But it's not frequency, but it's not frequency of the truck coming.
Okay, that
So
would make
there's
sense.
cost savings to them because instead of like once a week or twice a week, it'd be picked up maybe every third week
Okay,
or something
that
like
makes
that.
a lot of
So,
sense.
yep.
Thank you.
But yet the trucks are still coming and picking up the recycling, which is costing money.
Sure.
So this opens up so many potential doors for future discussion in other realms is my thought. That's the first thing that I'm already going to, but we don't need to do that today, do we? Counselor Brown, any questions? All right. Well, thank you for still helping with the transition with the
Absolutely. My pleasure.
and still kind of keeping us abreast of what changes are happening. So if there's no more questions for Ryan, we're now to recycling, communication, and education plans. Rob, you get the floor now.
Thank you, Counselor, and thank you, counselors, for having me. It's my first visit to the Solid Waste Committee, so, and I get to talk a little bit about recycling communication. So following Ryan, that's a hard act to follow, in talking, through this. So earlier in the summer, we met, the city staff met to talk a little bit about recycling education, engagement, and communication. And we wanted to reach out to this particular committee in gathering some feedback as we're drafting a 2027 communication plan for recycling. And so following the work that Ryan has talked about, Juliana and several members of the communication team got together and were discussing this very subject. So the purpose of today's conversation, maybe, is, do I need to go to the next? Yeah, just click. Perfect. Oh, it's got even animation. Love it. Is first of all to inform the Solid Waste Committee about our coordination for communication and engagement, as well as education concerning recycling. There are some regulatory requirements that have requirements for the city to provide some of that education and outreach. And so we want to be out front on that particular question, as well as identify areas of opportunity to work with other communicators and engagers that aren't necessarily at the city of Salem, but perhaps are with our partners in other jurisdictions such as Marion and Polk counties and our local haulers. So we're reaching out to seek feedback on our draft communication plan as we prepare for this 2027 campaign. So just a little bit of this campaign in context is that I'm sure that you know that the Recycling Modernization Act that was passed back in 2021 and then now fully implemented apparently as of last July 1st, 2025, it has essentially been designed to increase opportunities to recycle. And one of the large components to that particular bill is also an effort to reduce contamination of recycling. And it's something that I think we have missed out on in communicating to the public, as well as to businesses, to households, that not everything goes in the recycling bin per se, but even though we've created a new uniform statewide collection list, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a new trash receptacle, which sometimes is the case.
Yes.
So one other big note is that the RMA specifically shifts responsibility on several fronts that used to exist with other watershed managers, such as the county, to cities. And that one of those things is related to communication and engagement, where now there are annual and quarterly requirements, and there are some funding that can flow through that have primarily gone to haulers. So we're supplementing some of the work that's being done by our franchisees. So as we move forward to the 2027 communication campaign, I know you can barely, you won't be able to see the top, so you'll just have to listen to my good voice, I guess, is that our communication plan is focusing on quarterly themes to help improve awareness and increase participation in opportunities to recycling. So we'll talk a little bit more in just a moment about those quarterly themes, but there are sub messages that we're trying to get out in each quarter, some of which, as we'll talk about, Mr. Nishioka, involve food waste prevention and management. An additional goal is that we're really looking at to reduce our recycling contamination rates and seeing if we can move the needle in terms of getting people to at least be understanding of what goes in, even though we accept things like pizza boxes now, understanding that when all that cheese might stick to the top, that probably doesn't go.
It's full of grease. It can't go.
Yep, exactly. So those kinds of notions are important for us to help move the needle so that we can identify what should and shouldn't go in our blue bins. Finally, an additional goal is that we want to use this campaign to help strengthen coordinated messaging across the city of Salem. So we have a number of different entities that either engage with, whether that be finance and our franchisees, or Juliana over at Climate Action or Public Works, that we really want some coordinated messaging across the city. Not only the city, but also with our external partners, so Berrien and Polk counties, as well as with local haulers. So there are opportunities that we'd like to take advantage of in terms of coordinating that messaging a little bit more with intention. So who's engaging? There are really four major engagers on our side of this particular plan. So focusing on stormwater clean streams, they produce a lot of our messaging currently related to recycling efforts and around micro trash. Obviously, Juliana's work around the climate action plan, the communication team, whether that be as we've centralized city communicators through our public information officers and graphic designers, we are working in tandem together with those folks, our local haulers. And then, of course, not shown here is our external partners, Marion and Polk counties, as well as Kaiser and other local jurisdictions that may that we're hoping to bring into the fold on some of this messaging.
Okay.
Our primary messages are fourfold. I'm only going to talk about the first, and there's some sub-messaging for this, is that we're really trying to focus on small everyday choices about what people recycle and what they reuse add up to a more clean and sustainable Salem. What we're hoping to do is piggyback a little bit off of Staying Clean and Healthy. That's not only talking about one part of our city, and I know that's oftentimes associated with homelessness, but it's a larger concept that I think has gotten a lot of traction in the last year, and we're hoping to build on that initiative in our messaging. So tying into something that has been incredibly successful, at least from a messaging perspective, is building off of that into how we recycle and how we reuse. One thing that I would note here is while I added Marion County as there being a year-round commitment with our local haulers in Marion County, I can't forget Polk County as well. I think Councilor Ronnie would take issue with that. So that said, our primary tactics, and we, by the way, have added our more fully developed communication plan as part of the packet. So this is less of me reading you that particular plan of action, but really just highlighting a few things. One thing that we found incredible success with in helping to move the needle is our efforts in social media. We're going to continue that work. But one thing that I will note here is that while we do a pretty good job of putting things up on the website, it's sometimes difficult to find. And so we're who knew? So we're trying to be a little bit more intentional about where that information is and how to get access to it, especially as we're doing these campaigns, that as people see some of our messaging, that they get access to additional information quite with a little bit more ease. The last thing that I would note on this particular slide is that we're also really trying hard to engage in the translation of our messaging to our languages outside of English, because we know that we have a growing population of non-English speakers that we want to make sure that we're reaching out to them. They're a big part of our community, and we want to make sure that our community is represented in all of our messaging. Lastly, and I said one last thing, but lastly is our cross collaboration efforts. We have been doing work in Northeast Salem recently. That work is continuing with community engagers in the city manager's office. We're hoping to do some of that work in coordination with the counties, other nearby cities, and our haulers. And I know that I'm moving very quickly through these, but the quarterly themes that we're looking for our messages involve some of the things that Councilor Nishioka that you already talked about. Where quarter one, which is January through March, is focused on program launch and foundations, trying to reestablish kind of the basics of recycling. So new year, new us kinds of things. Then moving into waste prevention as a focus. Then moving into, as we get to Q3, our summertime places that we start having a lot of community events. So it's an opportunity to reach out as we hit the summer months and start engaging folks especially about food waste prevention. So this not only is looking at our our residents specifically, but also our businesses, our commercial entities, and helping to get them informed as well, because it doesn't just end at our houses, it's also in our businesses. And then finally, trying to tie it into Q4 in terms of holiday waste and a year-end wrap-up that ties it all together. And then we'll do some debriefing after the fact, after action, to see what was working, what wasn't working. But we're really looking into making sure that this campaign then can turn around additional messaging in following years that is data informed and allows for strategic or continued strategic approaches on our behalf. Finally, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, we came here today because we want your feedback. So we're not necessarily expecting it all at once, since you might reach out to us after the fact, but some questions that we thought that you might consider in terms of feedback is your initial thoughts as you kind of read through things. As we develop this campaign, we really would like to know what you're thinking and what you're hearing from the community, what's working for them, what's not, what's missing. And so that feedback, I think, is critical as we're trying to develop a year-long campaign. If there's any specific audiences that we should be reaching out to. So we tried to be intentional about reaching out to multifamily households, to single family households, to businesses, but also to external partners, the school district, for example, that aren't necessarily the folks that you immediately think of. But if there are other audiences that you think that we should be paying special attention to, that would be helpful to know. And then finally, we of course are in thoughtful of equity considerations. We've identified two, one which I mentioned earlier, language access, but a second related to potential limitations to internet access, just simply because we only using social media or our website isn't all that effective sometimes, especially when we get to areas of our community that maybe don't have access to internet on a frequent basis. And so we're trying to be particularly mindful of that. But if there are other equity issues to consider, we'd like to know your thoughts if you have contact with folks who aren't able to get access to those materials or might be better suited with different channels or different messages that maybe we hadn't considered quite yet. And so I just ended my 4th month with the city. So I'm still learning a lot, not as new as Melissa, but working in tandem, your thoughtfulness is especially appreciated as we kind of move forward. So that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, feedback, I'm happy to answer them or accept them.
Well, I don't see a hand up with Dr. Brown.
Question. I'm just curious about your efforts in the Northeast Salem Neighborhood Association, I guess.
So I'm sorry, the meeting is for us to ask the question. And so if you have questions that you want to then pose to us, you can either provide testimony, either written or at another meeting at public testimony. It's hard to understand how meetings work, so sorry that I had to interrupt you. Some of our questions may respond to similar thoughts. So I'm going to begin. Oh, Councilor Brown, go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. My question was, one, will we have access to these particular files? I think maybe we already do. I just don't have a copy of them. And second, you mentioned the work in Northeast Salem that you're partnering. I think you mentioned the city manager. You're just trying to get the word out to a lot of our constituents. Are you working with, I think, the new manager for engagement, I think Ashley Dunn? Are you working with her, or who are you working with when it comes to Northeast?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Brown. Yes, I work very closely with Ashley Dunn. So we're in daily communication with each other on that front. But as they're building out Northeast United, which is the community engagement initiative in Northeast Salem, they're looking at a number of different things. Safety and cleanliness is one of those issues that's popping up. We think that there's an opportunity to kind of bundle some of our messaging around recycling in places as we hear from Northeast Salem residents. So this is, I think, an opportunity to kind of reach out to parts of the city that don't necessarily get a lot of messaging attention.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that. And if you need any additional support or help, when it comes to knocking on doors or whatever you're doing, just please consider, including me because I would love to be there.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. So I will also, did you have something, Nikki? And if not right now, I'll talk.
Well, I mean, I have a few questions,
Ready?
and I appreciate Dr. Brown for asking that, because that's
Yeah,
the Northeast coordination and how the work is going was one of my
There
questions.
you go.
You know, what have you learned from it? What's working well? What isn't working well?
Yeah, I think that they're still in the data analysis components.
Okay.
So they just kicked that off. But we see a lot of opportunity, especially as we move in. Once they finish the data collection piece, we are hearing that safety, cleanliness, very similar things that we have talked about with Safe, Clean and Healthy are starting to pop up again, because Safe, Clean and Healthy as an initiative for Salem was based around data that we've been collecting around downtown and largely across Salem. Surprise, surprise. While there are some other things that are popping up in Northeast Salem, it's very similar concerns that we had collected before. But that doesn't mean that a one-size-fits-all solution is necessarily best for that doesn't help answer your question.
Yeah, that definitely does. I have a couple more, but
Right ahead.
one was, and you may not be able to answer this, but what is the status of options for multifamily and what are the communication efforts toward them?
That's a good question. I think as we build up the plan, I can get you more information as we start developing those messages specifically, but it's something that we have isolated as an intended audience. And so we'll get back to you.
Okay.
That's an area where we have to be creative because the bill goes to the property owner, not necessarily the residents. So a lot of coordination with the haulers.
A lot of coordination with the
land
haulers.
use.
Yeah, we discussed this quite a bit
Yeah.
in our materials
Right.
management.
That makes sense. I don't have a lot of communication question, but there are things, for instance, like how to make recycling easier. I mean, are there grants or options for collection bins to have in the house, or ways they can get, my son has one of the split garbage thingies, that he uses. And just the availability of things that we can make it easier
Yeah,
for folks.
that's a good question, and I'll probably have to defer to Juliana, not to.
Or Marion County.
Or, right.
Okay, I mean, it doesn't need to be answered right now, it's just a thought,
Yeah.
and then any community, and one thing, does the education include anything about the organics bin and the differences? Cause I don't think everybody has those
So
for yard waste, do they? Well, in Salem, and then there's Polk County, and then there's Marion County.
Within the Salem UGB, yeah, everyone has mixed organic.
Okay, and so the differentiating between the two,
It's using them properly is the issue.
Okay.
correct. So one message that we have, or a set of sub messages, is around yard waste. And so how to use those particular things. We also are standing up a flood risk communication plan. We're also, right, so we're also seeing a lot of things where people will blow leaves into the streets with blocking drains, creating flooding issues, especially around catch basins. So we're trying to be mindful of that work as well. So there's an opportunity to kind of bring some of that messaging together a little bit more in a coordinated way.
That makes a lot of sense. It does. Yeah, what brought that to mind, first of all, was the pizza box thing. Okay. No, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Jump in on it as well. So one of the requirements for the OTR is around food waste reduction. And so for our messages, we do talk about what goes in which bin. And then in our in-person outreach, that is the number one question everybody has. So we often go over that, and that's normally better done in person because it's so much information. People don't usually go looking for that on our social media or whatnot. And then for the contamination reduction funds, we're kind of sussing out if it would be a possibility to use that for having recycle bins or recycle totes in multifamily. That's something that would be probably 2 to 3 years out, just depending on if we have staff time, things like that. So that is something we're looking into down the road though.
Sure, thank you for that.
It's amazing how many things have to be coordinated with other agencies. I so miss public service announcements. I wish we could have them again on any streaming service and anything we watch because they were so great. Because those were opportunities for people to get educated. So now we're in the point of trying to figure out with all of the different modes of communications, how do we get it to everybody correctly instead of false information, and then also in different languages. I serve on the Equity Roundtable. And so I think that that would be one good spot to talk with, because these are people that come to represent other groups in our community. And I know that, and I think his name is Lance, who's with Salem Refugees. Is that Luke? Luke, thank you. I knew it started with an L. Thank you so much, Leanna. He was talking a couple meetings ago about there's a wonderful tool that he can use, which becomes more visual instead of language. That what he's found is he's using it and he can adapt that into whatever language that some of the refugees are in, getting information out. And so he brought that up, I want to say maybe in May. So Eunice or Julie Hansen could probably speak to you about that. And I think that could be a potentially a great tool on social media because it's visual and less worry. And so any little modes of education that we can have. I know too, not having the master recycling program anymore, that having been a master recycler, we would go out and educate. So we don't have those opportunities. And so it reduces the mechanisms that were present. And so how do we kind of catch up and make up for those changes? And just to share with you, so you know, I started a recycling program for medical waste recyclables in my medical practice. And what I found was when we couldn't recycle as much, it was so much easier to not try to retrain people because they were now trained to recycle right. And there was this hold for a while. And I just worked with the janitors to say, sorry, it goes in the trash, but don't tell anybody else. So when it changed again and we could recycle again, nobody had to learn anything other than the janitors now knew that they could put it in the blue bins versus the trash. So it's the problem becomes that relearning and the confusion that we still have. In fact, we had a meeting a couple months ago with materials management that we all were supposed to bring something. It's like, can we recycle this? And you still don't know.
Yeah.
Even though we're the ones getting the information, we still struggle. And so to have the opportunities to really make clear distinctions, because if you say, oh, you can do plastics that's 2 by 2 inches by 2 inches, well, then someone thinks that's clamshell. But it's not clamshell, it's only a certain kind of plastic, or that a pizza box can go in there if it doesn't have much grease on it. But if it has grease on that's the size of a fist, then you can't put at least that side of the cardboard in it. So it's so ever changing that it's frustrating. And the same is even true with the food waste management in the sense of people will put things in there that, and I'll give the example, paper towels. I was putting paper towels in that was collecting my food waste. Yet some paper towels have fibers within that that don't break down very well. And so then it changes the consistency of the food waste. And then it becomes less of a product that can be marketable. So it's not only a challenge to get the information out, but it's a challenge to have the accurate information in a timely manner. And also the struggle with when things change.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get down to 10% or less errors. And so in the materials, what the haulers are going to be doing is if they're seeing incorrect materials in there, they're going to put a notice on people's bins. So I do think that you should probably coordinate with the haulers in the sense of what do those notices look like? What is their purpose? And how can people get the correct information? I was trying to be a little more strict in the sense that, you know, like they can't have the recycling picked up until they pass a little visual test of how to do it. And then others were saying, oh, no, that's not fair. And it's just like, well, how do we help people understand what materials can go in there? And I think we're going to try to tackle recycling first because that's our biggie right now with the Remodernization Act. But food waste is another issue. I sometimes think, what do I do with it? Because there are a lot of errors that we don't realize. We assume that paper towels can break down, or we assume that other things can go in there when in fact it takes a really long time for that to dispose and to get that in. So I would encourage you to materials management has already got a little video that teaches people, and they've got a whole program that goes out into the schools. And so people are working on this. But again, it's how to get it out there and help people that have a busy life and they've got one more bag of trash, and their trash is full, so they drop it in any bin that's there.
Yeah.
And how do we fix that? I didn't help you necessarily, but I did talk a lot.
It's helpful.
So the round table would be good. I do love the fact that you're tying it to Clean Healthy Salem. Save Clean Healthy Salem, because I do feel that that is so appropriate, and we can continue on this message with all aspects of what we're doing. So I love that. And it may help support the information that goes out, and we can all stay on this major theme throughout many different departments and information that needs to go. So I love that. I think that will be very helpful. Councilor Brown, anything? And it will take time.
Yeah.
And of course, what we want the manufacturers to change their ways, which means that will change what we can put in the bins. And so it will be, I think too, that might be part of the message, that this is ever changing and to keep informed, because too often I think we want to have this hard, true fact that this can go in and don't change it on me. And then if we can add to it, that's great. Taking away is what's really hard. So, Brian or Corey, do you guys have anything that you would like to add? I know that being in the materials management, and I missed the last meeting, I'm sorry. And I know that Brian is also serving on the wider regional committee, and that has an impact. So do you have anything you might add or want to say?
I hope that someday we can tackle the question of and solve it for, just as you said, how do we hit everybody? How do you get the message out? Because we have so many different ways now. I think that's part of what hangs us up, is we are trying to hit every method. And sometimes that's not the best way to accommodate, what we're looking for. Single easy messages, I think, are the biggest way to do that, short and sweet. I don't know if you've seen any of our social media that Aaron does for us. It's the 1, 2, 3, yes or no. As part of my job, I get to approve those. And the other day I sent it back and said, hey, you know, pop, can't you hear your pop, what do you call those? The big cardboard boxes. I said, hey, those are recyclable. We had it as not. She goes, no, you can't. And I actually had to say this, had her go to Kathy Rhodes and say, no, Kathy at DQ is gonna tell you we can recycle those. You can't. I've been recycling those for 30 years, right? So you can't. Any pop box, beer box, whatever else it is, if it goes in your refrigerator, anything cardboard cannot be recycled.
Yeah, if
Just know
it's
that
something that can be frozen or cold,
Yep,
it has.
frozen cold has always been, but anything refrigerator also.
Yeah,
is now.
yeah.
So again, people have been doing it forever, right? So we have all been part of that 15% communication level, right? So now here's a lesson learned and we'll all continue to learn.
Because if it looks like cardboard, why not? Why,
Yeah.
why do we not be able to put it in there? And,
In the freezer.
yeah.
So it's coated cardboard, it's not the fact that it goes in the refrigerator.
Yeah, it's the wet strength they call it, so
Right,
it's designed to handle any form of moisture, and that's what.
So we should ask the beer companies to explain that that cannot go in the recycling bin.
Yep.
And again, the problem is there's so much confusion, or that if it was something that used to be able to be recycled and now it can't, or something that before couldn't and now can, it's just such a struggle.
Yeah.
And how do we get to 10% or less quickly? Wow.
Yeah. They have our work cut out for us.
Exactly.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah. And even if that could be part of the message, this is ever changing, or it's something to the fact that, you know, really be sure before you put it in there. That's the biggest thing. And all of us want to drop our hoses in the recycling bin or something that we wish for recyclables. Because it's like,
Something.
because that's what happens. So anyway, you have your work cut out for you, but I do believe that communicating with the haulers, because they've also been working on this, communicating with even past master recyclers who may have limited knowledge or old knowledge, but at least they have the understanding. I'm wondering, you're still giving out the Green Awards to businesses? Are we doing that anymore? Are you doing that anymore?
No, so that's now part of my role. So we took over the county's
Good for you, Juliana. You don't have enough to do.
Thank you.
So I have not been able to dedicate as much time as previously
I'm surprised.
their excellent coordinator has done. That is hopefully something that I can have capacity to do in the future, but at this time, we're just trying to get people certified as best we can.
Yeah, and so that's a great opportunity when that is up and running, because they're going to be invested and knowledgeable. And that's why I started my medical waste recycling program, because I was on that, and that's what got it over. And so they would be a good group of people. And then if that gets well promoted or celebrated, then other people want to do it and they get to learn. And again, it takes time.
Sounds like a great opportunity.
So, and then if schools are doing anything now that, you know, maybe there's something going on in schools in the sense of they're using compactors and looking at recycling, educating kids, the program that the county has, Marion County has, that goes out and can do a self practice, you know, like where these go, and they put them in, then they can teach their parents. Or maybe they can say that they'll be responsible for putting it in the right bins, who knows? But all of those things might be avenues for you.
I think it's important to think outside the box about ideas. I always like a good competition.
Yep. And
You know, something like an idea for fun with a reward for compliance. I don't know how we design it, but I'm just bouncing around some ideas in my head for fun.
Saturday market next year might be a good opportunity because now the neighborhood associations are going there fairly regularly. It might be a great opportunity to have the learning kit, the training kit for kids that are there. Or if there's any city events or where we have something that's happening at, say, a festival. And just opportunities for getting out with it and making it as simple as possible. And it may just simply be a QR code that takes them to the little the little videos that are there that are pretty simple to understand, even if there's a language barrier. At least I think. Those are just a few suggestions that I can know.
Thank you. Yes. Okay.
All right. Anything else? Dr. Brown, did you have your hand up?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Okay. Rob, thank you. You got your work set out for you. I'm so glad I'm not having to do it. All right, so we're now on to the leachate update. Natin, would you like to, do you have a presentation or are you just?
Right there.
There we go. All right, it's also in my packet. Oh, and by the way, Counselor Brown, the information that Rob had was with the agenda. So you got that with the agenda. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Nishioka, members of the SWAC committee. My name is Nitin Joshi. I'm your Environmental and Operations Technology Manager with Public Works. And I'm here today to talk about PFAS, the permanent polyfluoroalkyl substances, and what their contribution in Salem's wastewater, as well as what's going on with the landfill leachate that we accept. So that's the topic we will discuss here today. Before we dive into where and what what we accept and where it comes from, I wanted to focus the discussion about we are always everything that we do in Salem on the wastewater fronts or on the solid waste fronts, it's all tied to regulation. And so we are extremely regulated, managed, required to abide by certain permit community. In case of wastewater, our wastewater is controlled by regulations which are under the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, the NPDES permit, which our wastewater treatment plant has, but it's applicable for all the collection system as well as a pre-treatment program, which means industries and everything that goes into the collection system and gets treated. So in that regard, I just wanted to point out that controlling permit is what decides what we can accept and what we cannot, what we check for and what we don't. At the present time, what we are going to discuss here today, PFAS, is not required and is not regulated under that permit. So as in regulatory side of things, I just want you to understand that what we are talking about is entirely not required or regulated under a permit that we abide by. However, there are other sectors in the regulations which do have now progressed to require regulation. One of the most important one is drinking water. And in drinking water, you have 6 PFAS compounds, which or mixtures, which have been deemed as required to be monitored and controlled and managed so that they don't impact people. And so those are, there are 5 of them which are discrete individual compounds which have maximum contamination level. There are the PFOA, PFOS, PFHX, PFNA, and HFPO-DA. Don't please ask me to explain each one of them. They are just basically contaminants of concern which come from this whole big suite of about 15,000 PFAS that exist that have been created.
the sixth one in that is basically a combination of these five with a hazard index, so that all of them put together, if they cross over a threshold limit of 1, then a point by a point system, then that is also considered to be a limit. And so that's how they have managed in drinking water side. They also have come up with, Oregon DEQ has come up with hazardous waste list for 6 compounds. Now, these are basically compounds which will help them start discussions regarding areas where we are seeing contamination, especially in the soil, in impacted groundwater, impacted areas, so that they can start addressing those pollutants of concerns in those areas. So that's why they are deemed as hazardous substances or hazardous compounds. And these are 6 of them, which are again PFOA, PFOS, PFHS, PFNA, HFDO, and PFBS. So in the earlier list, PFBS wasn't there. So there's this 6th one, which is basically, again, the list of what they have taken from what EP has already put out. So it's nothing new that DEQ does. They just take what national list is and then they apply it to the state. And so that lays out the groundwork of basically just the regulatory side of things. So let's talk about the fact that where are these sources of PFAS in our saline wastewater. Before I talk about that, just for common understanding, PFAS was created way back in 1930s by DuPont, and basically they started working on a compound which had no value to start with when they realized that the Manhattan Project required something which needed to manage all the seals to remain tight as the uranium fluoride gas was being created. This was the product which has huge amount of fluorine. It's a carbon-fluorine bond that allowed no more fluorine to be accepted. So thereby no hydrofluoric acid that was being generated in making the uranium gas or the Manhattan Project would be impacted because it had already enough fluorine in it. And so it all stems out of the Manhattan Project and the need to try to create a system which would not get destroyed. And then when they realized it could be used for everything, they coated the tanks with this, they put everything during the Second World War. They utilized it heavily. War ended, and then they started commercializing it into Teflon, which then became our pots and pans. And then same way, 3M got into the same business, and then they created Scotchgard. And so everyone's sofas all through the 60s, which had nice application of Scotchgard, was the beginning of that. So that's just to give you a background of it's been here for a long time, and they knew about it, and there is lots of lawsuits regarding the fact what they knew about how bad it was. But how do we get it? We get it because we have it in our residences. We have Gore-Tex, or maybe any kind of, even your popcorn wrappers and, burger wrappers, everything has PFAS. So all that is coming through the collection system in one form or the other. And then on the commercial side of things, there was AFFF foam, which was utilized by airports for basically getting rid of any kind of huge fires. It's an excellent fire retardant. And then other industries or commercial places, there was lots of different applications that were used. And so that's the commercial process that PFAS is still continuing to come through. But we also accept, at City of Salem, we accept leachate, which comes from landfills. So we're going to talk about that. And so, but just for Salem, we have checked our industries. We do not have any major industries which are giving us any PFAS. So we are thankful about that part. We have checked our residential, generally speaking,
the background load, and I'll talk about that as to how it looks. And we'll talk about the hard waste program, which is where our waste from the landfill comes from. And the landfills that we're going to talk about is LRI, which is a landfill from Washington, Riverbend landfill, which is out of McMinnville, Republic Services, which is AKA Coffin Butte landfill, which is the one we are most concerned about. So before I start talking about this slide, I just want to remind everyone the reason why we even accept leachate to start with is we are the second largest treatment plant in the state. The largest one is in Portland, the second one is Salem. And so when you think about conventional waste treatment, Salem was positioned rightly for accepting this waste. In the past, the only concern from leachate side at the most was looking at making sure that it fulfilled the requirements of meeting the local limits that are set out by City of Salem. And the local limits are the ones which basically protect our treatment plant from any impacts. And they are heavy metals, pH, those kind of things. And we have always checked that to ensure that the waste coming from even the landfills have to meet those standards. So when people ask how long have we been accepting leachate, we've been accepting leachate for 15 years. It's not new, it's not something which was just happened over the last few years. We've been accepting that for a long time. The question or the issue about PFAS being a problem is recent, and that's the reason why it's even brought in, to the forefront. Now, talking about the permit, Coffin Butte, which is one of the leachate haulers, or the landfill from where we get the leachate, has a wastewater discharge permit with the city. And what does that mean? We have a state and a federally mandated industrial pretreatment program. This is a program which manages all the industries and their discharges coming to us. Hard waste is a category of an industry which basically we look at as a significant industrial user. So anything that could pose a concern or could be a problem for the treatment plant could be put in the category of a significant industrial user. Coffin Butte is one of our SIU as a hard waste hauler. And it is basically permitted under the program, under the industrial pretreatment program, which is a standardized program managed by DEQ or approved by DEQ, managed by City of Salem under the national requirements. So these are programs across everywhere around the country. If you have a certain type of industry, you're required to have industrial pretreatment. As for talking about new PFAS treatment technology, there are quite a few which are being tested out. We have been talking with Coffin Butte about what we feel that they should voluntarily be looking at. We have gone and visited sites which actually have been doing work associated with those treatment technologies. In fact, waste management is at the present time treating the Hillsborough landfill waste before it sends to the treatment plant with these kind of technologies. Investment is pretty significant. It's like $10 million. So it's not a small investment but these are big companies that are willing to understandingly realize that this is where it's going to go. So we have been talking with about that. And that was one of the evaluations that I think we even provided to Jim and folks outside through the public process to let them see what we have been talking with other folks about as to what kind of technologies are out there. Going to the next slide, we are talking about how much leachate have we accepted in the last few years. I just wanted to give you a little brief understanding. Even back in 2023, we started seeing that the amount of leachate which was being brought in, even from LRI, it depends on the type of season they have been having leachate gets formed because of rain falling onto the landfill. The years that they have too much rain and they can't have enough capacity in their own Pierce County landfill or Pierce County wastewater treatment plant, then the overflow is sent to anywhere that any other treatment program can handle. And so basically they have a permit with us for that reason, that as long as they meet our requirements, they're willing to haul it all the way from Washington to Salem, just because they can't find along the way. They've been filling up every possible place before they come to us. So same way, Riverbend we were never the primary discharger location. Riverbend always uses it as a secondary location. They always went to Hillsborough for that the clean water services for their disposal. But the fact is, they came to us because there were some upgrades that were going on at the clean water services treatment plant. So they had switched over to us. As you can see, it's tapered off, and they just have a permit which is open, but they're not utilizing it. So what's left is actually Coffin View. And over the last few years, we have seen that as we started talking about PFAS, we always told them that we are really interested in trying to make sure that they look for other avenues for disposing of their waste. And so we are not interested in taking anything more than what we have traditionally taken. The reason for that is we have a permit, and permit is a contract. At the end of 2027, their existing permit will expire. At that point, they have a choice of making sure that we would expect them to treat before they bring anything here. But up to that point, they have been authorized to bring in the waste under that permit. We have required that they bring no more than what they have always brought. So no increasing waste just because somebody else stopped accepting. So that's the best we have been able to do, but you cannot just cancel out a permit without reason. The reason has to come because there is regulation, or there is an acute need or a violation of a permit requirement of something which would basically require us to take that drastic action. It's something that we have to be careful about. Yeah.
Thank you for taking my question. So if I'm understanding, right now, Coffin Butte is the only, because of the permit contract that we have with them, that's what we're accepting, the leachate that we're accepting, but that the contract will end in 2027.
Right.
And at that point, we can
Cut them off completely.
So
if we want to.
okay. And did they, if we do that, is there recourse for them in the sense of previously having accepted it? Are there legal mechanisms that they can say, oh, well, you still have to, do you know? I guess is what I'm asking.
While I'm not an attorney, I'll be very careful about not taking, Dan Atchison or Tom Kapali's role, because I think they would be better at answering that part of the of the legal question. But as far as I can tell you, even for cutting them off after December 2027, we would ideally have to shut down the entire program of accepting any leachate. So you can't keep it open for somebody else and cut one off.
Okay.
And that's the part, that's also one of the reasons we could not say no to LRI as long as they met the requirements of the conditions that they had to come in with. We had to go ahead and issue them a permit. And once you are issued a permit, you have to continue. So can you go to the next slide, please? How much does City of Salem treat every year? About 10 to 12 billion gallons of wastewater every year. How much do we accept in leachate? 20 million gallons a year. So it's a very small one. I just want to give you an understanding of that. Well, it's a very high concentration of PFAS though. It's the highest load of PFAS coming from anything that we accept from commercial or industrial within the city. So leachate by itself, the contribution could be decreased if we require pre-treatment. So, what you're going to see on that graph is what we did in August of 2024 is we asked them to stop for a month bringing any leachate to the city. And then we tested the water coming in to find out what would it mean to see what PFAS load we have from our own community. And so that's where that first graph shows us that it's about 5 parts per trillion in PFOA, little less than that in PFOS, and a little about closer to 10 in PFBS. Those were the 3 acute ones that we wanted to track because they are the ones which show up, if at all, typically. And the 2 PFOA and PFOS are the long chain the long chain compounds of PFAS, and they persist in the environment a lot longer and have been studied a lot of time, to the extent where basically we know they cause lots of problems by bioaccumulating in fish, uptake in the environment, impacts to humans. So those are the 2 main heavily studied. The shorter chain ones tend to not bioaccumulate either in the human bodies or in the environment, and they typically tend to not cause the level of problems that PFOA and PFOS have. But that's based on the existing studies, and there are so many more. So this is what we know. What you're seeing as the middle graph is when we continue to accept 22 million gallons is when we tested what's because of leachate, what's our signature, and pretty much, as you can see, close to doubles. So what we are seeing is minus them, our community load is half. When we were asked after Corvallis stopped accepting leachate, would you be able to accept all of our leachate? We needed exactly how much would that mean for the community, and that's what you're seeing is that it goes even further to increase, not doubling up, but quite again significantly in PFOA and in PFBS, not as much as in PFOS. So those are just, I wanted to explain the scenarios of what it would mean. I talked to you about the landfill technologies that basically landfills have been trying. There's a company called Alonia that Coffin Butte has been working with. They have been testing the surface action foam fractionation. It's a technology which basically means that they take the water, they pass it through certain units, they bubble the whole thing, the wastewater, forms foam, they skim the foam. Because of the nature of how poor PFAS is, we see that PFAS tends to rise up in the foam, and it's got a hydrophilic tail and a hydrophobic head. So it tends to hang out on the very top in that foam. And so if you keep on skimming the foam, it reduces the level of PFAS completely in that wastewater, to the extent where they have been able to remove up to 98% of these 2 main long chain compounds. And they have tried to come up with even more additives since then to try to remove even the short chain ones significantly.
Is this what Hillsborough's using?
Yes.
And you said that it's a $10 million.
Yep. And Alonia has been trying to do that in Michigan. So they send their water from here to Michigan to make sure that the system will work for Coffin Butte's leachate. But we haven't proceeded any further than that.
What happens to the foam?
The foam, so you're looking at a 25,000 gallon of wastewater gives you less than a cupful of PFAS waste.
Okay.
And so getting rid of that at high, that bond can be broken with an extremely high temperature.
Okay.
But so that's a lot more manageable at that point rather than accepting at the wastewater treatment plant and treating it at such a huge amount.
Right. It's diluting it. Okay.
We only have a couple more minutes.
Oh, thank you for calling me. All right. Continue on.
I just had a question. I know, I just had a quick question because if you don't mind, just real quick.
Yeah.
On the various scenarios, what were the two scenarios? I mean, I see the first one, non-leachate, but the other two, what's the difference between them? Is one when we accept the leachate and one at Willow Lake, or what are the last two scenarios? I'm sorry.
It says on the graph right below, it's unfortunately small font, 22 million gallons per year and 43 million gallons per year. So 22 is what we have been accepting every year. So the first one is without accepting anything, what would it look like? Second is presently what we are accepting. And when they asked us, can you take all of it? Coffin View asked, can you accept all of our leachate? That's what it would look like, 43 million gallons.
Okay, but it's not testing for where we accept it at the airport versus when it gets to Willow Lake. Okay, I didn't understand. All right.
No, so
Okay.
it's
It's a
the
lot of
third is just a
information.
if scenario.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
If we end up accepting all of it from Coffin View, what would it look like?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Nitin, go ahead and continue.
Thank you. So coming to the almost second to last slide, we just want to emphasize the key points. So Salem does accept and treat their wastewater and discharge it to the Willamette River at Willow Lake. We are regulated through DEQ's and PDS permit. Currently we do not have any requirement for PFAS sampling. So all what we are doing is pretty much voluntarily doing it. In spite of that, what have we been doing? We've been sampling our influent, which means what comes into the treatment plant, effluent, biosolids, quarterly. We have been looking at what's coming to above from our treatment plant in the river, upstream from us, and downstream from the discharge point every year since 2023. We have been testing the leachate, and we have been also doing sampling of our major industrial users to make sure that we understand what we have. So this is what we have done proactively, even though not regulated. So what happens when to PFAS at Willow Lake? All these compounds, like what our dear speakers did mention, they do pass through the conventional biological treatment process without being treated. But some of them do get attached to the biosolids, is what I would say. The long chain PFAS do continue to decompose. Short chain, decomposing the short chain. And so we see these changes happening where we think that we had a lower number coming in, and then how come there's higher number going out? And that's because it changes in the treatment process. Now, what's being discharged to the river, the total amount of discharge, average discharge that we are seeing in the river in our samples that we have taken, what's coming from above us is about less than a part per trillion, less than 1 nanogram per liter. What's going outside the treatment plant from us to the Willamette is a little bit over 2 parts per trillion, 2 nanogram. And so just to give you an idea that it's 1 nanogram per liter is equivalent to 1 drop in 20 Olympic sized swimming pools, is about 1 drop in 13 million gallons of water. And so you're looking at an increase from this community with all the leachate that we are accepting of 1 drop in 13 million gallons of water of PFAS. And we are going to try to solve that, to reduce that, to eliminate or manage that. So it's a very, very small amount to start with. So, and then to add to that, the drinking water MCL, which means what this EPA has already decided is 4 parts per trillion. So what we are putting out is already drinking water, worthy water on the other side. I'm not asking anyone to go and try drinking on the other side of the effluent. But just to give you an understanding of that, that's what the numbers look like. And in spite of that, we will continue to push for technological solutions for ourselves, our community, and anyone who's discharging to us. On the biosolids side, since the question came up, I'll first, talk about the slide and then try to answer the questions.
So
related to it.
I think, do you need to get going? Or are you okay?
I know there's another meeting in this room.
Oh, okay.
So if you can answer quickly that, or if you need to respond by email, that I'm not sure. So
Okay.
quick as possible, I guess.
So just to answer, what's on the slide, containing biosolids containing PFAS and PFOA averaging about 1.2 microgram per kilogram and 12 microgram per kilogram. There are no standards requirements on biosolids. And most of the states which are putting limits, they are putting requirements for restricting biosolids about 20 microgram per kilogram. So we are still below, much below than that level. And we, in spite of that, since the end of last summer, we stopped applying biosolids to land, any land. So we do not send our land biosolids to any land application. In fact, we chose to send it back to the landfill. And so that's out of caution. And so to answer the question of Mr. Levitt, city, how much PFAS, if the city did not accept leachate, how much PFAS would be in our biosolids? We can only tell you how much PFAS is coming in and how much is leaving. So basically what's in between is ending up in biosolids. That's the best answer I can give right now, but I can find out more specific if you want.
Okay, thank you.
As far as the biosolids, we sell it? We've never sold biosolids.
Okay.
We have always given it away for free to the farmers who almost requested invariably year upon year, lined up to be on the list.
To be on the list, yeah.
And as for how much do we make money, so could we actually make biosolids to sell? That what you're talking about is creating phase, it's called Class A biosolid. We are right now in Class B. Class A would be a lift, but with PFAS considerations, it's even more concerning to again put back in the community. So that's why we have been choosing to go to the landfill rather than, it would have been my dream to make Class A and send it back to all of our, parks and, all of our homes to utilize it again. But the reality is, at this point of time, I don't think I'm advocate for that, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, since we're over, I just want to mention that looking ahead, because the League of Oregon Cities meeting is happening the Thursday, that would we'd have a solid waste meeting. We're probably going to not have a meeting in October because the League of Oregon Cities, that's the weekend of the convention. So I'm just putting that out there so we can maybe make sure of that next meeting in September, whether or not we're not having an October one. And then I think that we were going to do an update on what happened at Marion County. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry that we don't have time. And I look forward to finding out what happened. Maybe next time.